Ian Brady. Brady was born Ian Duncan Stewart in Glasgow, Scotland. His mother was Maggie Stewart, a 28-year-old waitress at a tea room. The identity of his father is uncertain, although his mother claimed he was a journalist who died a few months before Ian was born. Unable to afford to raise a child, she left him with a local couple, John and Mary Sloane. At first, she often visited him, but the older he got, the less she did. When she was 12, she moved to Manchester with her new husband, Patrick Brady. As a child, Brady enjoyed torturing and killing animals, once even setting fire to a dog, and later began attacking children as well. At his primary school, Camden Street Primary School, he was considered an underachiever and kept to himself. Later he studied at Shawlands Academy, a school for above-average students, but he still didn't want to apply. It was then that Brady became interested in World War II and the Nazis and even tried to learn the German language. Among her favorite books were Hitler's autobiography Mein Kampf, Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, Marquis de Sade's Justine, and lesser-known books on sadism. Between the ages of 13 and 16 he was charged 3 times with burglary and burglary. After the third time, he moved with his mother and stepfather to Manchester, where he resumed committing crimes and spent time in 2 juvenile detention centers. In 1957, having learned bookkeeping while in college, he got a job as a warehouse clerk at Millward's Merchandising, where he met Hindley a year later. Myra Hindley. Hindley was born in Manchester and had a comparatively much more normal childhood than Brady. She grew up in Gordon, a popular area. His parents were Bob, a laborer who did his military service in his early years, and Nellie Hindley, a machinist. Bob was also an alcoholic who physically abused Hindley. He also taught her how to fight and defend herself. In one incident, when Hindley was 8 years old, a boy deeply scratched his cheek. When her father told her to defend herself, she sought him out and hit him. When the Hindley's second child, Maureen, was born in August 1946, Myra was sent to live with her maternal grandmother, Ellen. In her early school years, she had a poor attendance record as her grandmother tended to keep her home for the slightest reason. However, she had excellent grades, loved sports, and was a very good swimmer. Not considered very feminine, she was nicknamed Square Ass because of her wide hips. As a teenager, she was a popular babysitter. When she was 15, a friend of hers, Michael Higgins, drowned in an accident and she became very traumatized. She had turned down an offer to go swimming with him that day, thinking she could have saved him if she had joined him. She also started bleaching her hair. A little later, she dropped out of school and got a job as an assistant clerk in an electrical engineering company. At the age of 17, she became briefly engaged to a local boy named Ronnie Sinclair, but broke off the engagement because she did not like the idea of married life. In 1961 Hindley, then 18 years and 4 years younger than Brady, got a job as a typist at Millward's Merchandising. She fell in love with him instantly, but it took a year before he reciprocated. After a Christmas party, he offered to drive her home. In front of his house, he invited her on a date. They were beginning to calm down, usually going to the movies and then to Hindley's for German wine. Brady told him about Hitler and the Nazis, talked about the Marquis de Sade, and shared his belief that rape and murder weren't wrong. Hindley was devoted to her and started wearing short skirts and long boots, continued bleaching her hair, and even stopped going to church when he told her there was no God. Murders, arrests and deaths. In July 1963, Hindley later claimed, Brady started talking about committing the perfect murder. On the 12th, they claimed their first victim by kidnapping and killing 16-year-old Pauline Reade. In November of the same year, they kidnapped a little boy, 12-year-old John Kilbride. After raping him, Hindley claimed Brady tried to slit his throat with a knife, but ended up strangling him with string. Brady claimed he strangled him with his bare hands. On June 16, 1964, they kidnapped and killed 12-year-old Keith Bennett on his way to his grandmother's house. He was never seen again. On December 26, Boxing Day of the same year, they visited a fairground and kidnapped 10-year-old Lesley Ann Downey, asking her to help carry some packages they were carrying. They took her to their home, stripped her naked, and forced her to pose naked for pictures. She was then raped and killed by one of them, the torture taped and buried at Saddleworth Moor. His body was not found until 10 months later. On October 6, 1965, Brady and Hindley invited 17-year-old Edward Evans to his apartment, 16 Wardlebrook Avenue, and killed him with an axe. David Smith, the husband of Hindley's younger sister Maureen, attended but was allowed to live. After helping them clean up, he went home to his wife and they called the police. They immediately searched the apartment and found Evans' body wrapped in a blanket and the axe he had used to kill him. Brady was arrested and tried to pin the blame on Smith. When the apartment was searched again on October 15, police found photos of Lesley Ann Downey in the tape recording, which included the voices of Brady and Hindley as well as Downey's, as well as a notebook with the name of John Kilbride and a photo of Hindley standing by his grave. As the evidence against them mounted, Brady and Hindley continued to try to pin the blame on David Smith. Their trial began on April 27, 1966 and ended when both were found guilty of murder, Brady on all 3 counts, Hindley on 2 counts, and then guilty of being an accomplice to murder in the John Kilbride case. Luckily for them, England abolished the death penalty just weeks before their arrest and they were sentenced to life in prison. In 1985 Brady confessed to the murders of Pauline Reade and Keith Bennett and the investigation was reopened. Both were taken to the moor by search forces to show where the bodies had been buried. On July 1, 1987, the body of Pauline Reade was found not far from where Lesley Ann Downey had been buried. However, Keith Bennett's body was never found. In 2002, Hindley died of bronchial pneumonia aged 60. In 2017, Brady died at the age of 79 from unspecified chest and lung ailments.